All right. I think the biggest question, can you guys see my the presentation? Just give me a thumbs up. You can see it. Cool. We're good. I'm working with a new setup here, so it's taking me a little bit of time to get it dialed in. But so you'll see me popping back and forth just based upon how my screens are. But what we're going to talk about with this topic is, again, we're rolling right into holiday season, and we get a lot of questions, concerns with, hey, how do we navigate these situations? And there's a multitude of ways to go at it, and I'll give you guys some concepts and some strategies and ideas that may help you. So when we really look at the holidays and travel, okay, let's look at the real truth. Travel and holidays do not cause the fat gain. It's more about the loss of structure because we do so well when we're in a structured format and we can control the day-to-day operations, schedules, things of that nature because we do typically make better decisions because we have a plan in place. So when we get out of those routines, many times the structure and the discipline may fall to the wayside. So that typically is kind of what happens during the holidays is we get out of our structure routine and we're creatures of habit. And then the other situation is we're in maybe situations where the decision fatigue decision pops up. What should I do? Should I eat this or take that or because you're in a different environment. You're in an environment where you have less control and you may have availability of food that you typically don't get exposed to. So, same thing with travel. When we're on the road or in airports and things of that nature, there's ways to navigate those situations where you have to be disciplined a little bit to the process and make better decisions, which I'll talk a little bit about. So here's where the struggle bus comes in, and I get it, understand it. It's going to happen. Busy schedule disrupts routine. Decision fatigue increases poor choices. So we're like, oh, what the heck? We might as well just, have three or four sugar cookies or 10 or 12. Um, Skip meals lead to overeating sometimes. That's where, if we go extended period of time and don't have the ability to kind of throttle it back, we overconsume because those mechanisms to shut down that hunger response takes a little bit of time for them to kick in. So I'll talk about strategies for that. And then we feel guilty about the whole process and reinforces the cycle. Oh, you feel guilty, so you go do more damage to yourself. You don't want to do that. You don't want to have self-inflicting wounds. So we'll talk a little bit about the guilt cycle. So our goal for you guys this holiday season is really minimize, the weight gain or fat gain, preserve lean muscle through the process because that's going to be important. And again, I will talk about it. One bad meal, I should say bad meal, or one overconsumption here, overconsumption there is not going to derail you. It's when it's compounded, which again I will talk about. And then we're gonna, give you the tools and the confidence for you to keep that momentum because that's important. Momentum, again, I was talking on a coaching call yesterday, talking about momentum, and it's more from a business standpoint, and it rolls over into life. When you get a hold of momentum, you want to stay on top of it. You want to keep it going because it could be cumbersome to get that momentum back, right? It's like rolling the boulder up the hill. So we want you to get back into a routine without or minimal rebound. So that's going to be important to get back into some type of structure. So mindset's going to be a big part of it. So we want to have a mindset shift. Really, this is who are you becoming, and these decisions become a lot easier, just like brushing your teeth. So really stop pausing habits, adjust behavior temporarily, right? And then stay aligned with your, identity of who you're becoming because this is what you do now. You got to make better decisions. We're going to give you the tools to do that because those goals that you have are so strong. And again, if your identity shifts with the alignment of your actions, it's a win-win for you. So three anchors that can be a simple process for you to adopt in most situations. And you guys have heard me talk about this. We just talked about it right here in the beginning. making sure we have protein that's going to anchor situations. So it anchors appetite and preserves lean tissue. The acid components help maintain lean tissue. Does other things too. You've heard me talk about that. Portion, it prevents overeating. So portion control. So we need protein, portion control, and then the patterns create predictability. So what are your patterns like? And can you alter those patterns to fit the situation to make sure you stay on routine or close enough? So these are three anchors that we have control over. You guys again have heard me communicate this quite often. Protein's going to help with muscle, improves your hunger responses. So stabilizes blood sugar, again, insulin, so that way you don't have the ups and downs, and then reduces late day cravings. So with the stabilization blood sugar and how long it takes to break protein down, your energy sources should be sustainable, so you don't have those ups and downs. Again, I give you a range because we have male, female, 25 to 40 grams per meal. It could go higher depending on individual. Those are just some good ranges. Palm size, portion, minimum. Just think of it that way. Again, if you're in situations, go after your protein first, look to see if it correlates with that portion. And then if it's around that palm size for you, that's going to get you into that, depending on what type of protein it is, it's going to get you close enough to that 25 minimum grams based upon the size of it. So if you can really focus on this other component as well, protein at every meal, regardless of setting, that's a good thing. Because many times, if you're able to do that, you will minimize overconsumption because you'll consume enough, and that protein will help stabilize insulin response, hunger response, and then the digestion slows a little bit. It obviously takes longer to break protein down. Therefore, you hopefully will not overconsume. So here's some easy portable, and there's a lot of different options. I just jotted a couple of them down. Having options available is key in whatever setting. If you're going on a trip, we always typically have our go-tos. We will do some of the jerkies, some beef sticks, some protein shakes, some nuts, and have all those components typically within we carry on with us. If you're on the go, look at these, hard-boiled eggs, yogurt, again, go back to jerkies. They do have abundance of protein shakes or bars. And again, when you start looking at the protein shakes or bars that are RTD or ready to go, bars are going to be a little bit more tricky to get your protein. If you get I'd like to see it around the 18 to 20 grams for that bar. So think of it from that standpoint. 16 may be okay, just depends on calories. That's where you can get a little bit of trouble. Typically, protein shakes do a better job with the ratio. But again, worst case scenario, you have a bar that's 16 grams and it's 120 calories. We're okay. So having these available, and again, a lot of gas stations. Last time we traveled to the airport, I went in and filmed actually multiple stores because I thought it was they've done a really good job of having more protein options within those convenience stores within airports. So you can do a pretty good job. Again, you just have to make the decision to go after the things that are going to be serving you. And then strategies for portion control without obviously tracking from a scale and or picture. Now, obviously, we have the ability to do that from a picture. Feel comfortable doing that. You can stay on task that way. I'm sure if you're at a relative's, they would probably get a kick out of you taking a picture of the food and watching AI try to analyze it. But anyway, here's a simple strategy again for portion control for you. Protein palm size for you. Vegetables or fruit is going to be more of a fistful. And then carbohydrates, cupped hand here. And then fat is going to be about a thumb. And again, these just give you visual perspective, which you can use your own tools that you have on you to make a better decision. And if You can, if push the protein portion up a little bit more and maybe pull back the carbohydrates a little bit more. So again, those are just decisions that will serve you better if you feel comfortable doing that. And then strategic carbohydrates. So this is where we can get in a little bit of trouble, depending on how calorie dense some of the foods that you're consuming are. And that's another thing is some of the foods nowadays just you don't realize how many calories are added. So that can really push us over the baseline of our consumption fairly quickly. So with carbohydrates, better used early in the day. Always pair it with a protein if you can. That's going to be key. And then you can choose, have some flexibility. If you're going to use the carbohydrates, to choose foods that you enjoy, um, and then skip the filler carbs. Again, you want to be mindful of the calories to some degree because again, it's easier to go overboard with calories and not even realize it, unfortunately. So again, this goes back to the portion sizes, the plate method anywhere. Start with protein, add the veggies, finish with carbs and fats. Eat slow, slow it down. Enjoy, enjoy the company, enjoy the conversations, and try to stop satisfied, not stuffed. Those are your sensory mechanisms that in cues, and it's okay to have, not feeling like you can't stand up because you've consumed too much. You just have to get really used to having a little bit of sensation of that hunger response. And it's a matter of managing that. As long as you're getting your protein in at a percentage and your total calories not too low, having hunger responses, and this my last call is actually about this, it is a good thing in managing those hunger responses as well. So and then we get into alcohol awareness. Obviously, different parties, situations. We can consume a good amount of calories from liquid fairly quickly. Then our decision making kind of goes to the side. But decide limits in advance for you. Go in with a plan. Maybe make sure you're maybe alternating with water. Again, keep hydrated as much as possible. Try to avoid drinking on an empty stomach and be intentional. Right? What is your game plan? What's your goals? If you want to have a good time, be social, you can still do that and navigate these situations. One thing that I would say is if you know you're going to go to a party and have, two cocktails, make sure that you are kind of calculating those components within your macro ranges. What are those cocktails? What's the calorie range? You can look that stuff up fairly quickly. And that way, if you're inside your macro ranges, you can have those drinks and still be okay. You'll still be like a break even as long as you're not going over. So it can be done. I see people do it all the time. They will maneuver their calories around knowing that they're going to have, a couple cocktails. So it's just more strategic planning. Um, this is what I was talking about earlier, and this is, one overindulgent of a meal is not going to ruin everything. Now, it's going to be stacking those. If we do that consecutive days, that's where we're going to get in trouble. So, the one day of overconsumption typically is not going to set you back. You may have a break even. The scale may be up a little bit, but it'll take a day or two to kind of level back out. The biggest thing I could say with that is making sure you don't stack days on top with overconsumption because again that'll compound, that'll get you in a cycle, a routine of overconsumption. So what we always recommend is, if you do have that big meal and overconsumption, next meal return to normal. Try to get back to your normal patterns. That way it gives you more control of how you respond. Some travel day strategies, depending on if you're in a car, flying, you want to make sure that you consume or have that protein with you. So, if you're in a car, you can consume it before you go, and or if you have shakes or the ability to carry bars or anything else. Again, this goes with either car and or plane. or however you're traveling. Pack your protein snacks, hydrate. And that's another thing is we don't talk about enough is when we're traveling. I know it can be a little bit more cumbersome, specifically, if you're on a plane and or if you're seated on the road for X amount of time. What you want to do is kind of plan around that, the trip. So you don't want to overconsume, hydrate too much prior to, because then obviously you're going to have to go to the restroom and it may disrupt everything. But you want to stay hydrated a little bit during and make sure you are consuming, because sometimes what happens with us is when we're traveling, we don't drink any water, um, which is not necessarily good because it can start messing up the digestion and or the hunger responses. Um, but once you get to your destination, make sure that you get back on that pattern or routine of water consumption, because it's going to help with, again, digestion. It's going to help with feeling satisfied and energy levels. So, and then once you arrive, obviously, in whenever format, try to get some meaningful steps in if you can, or some movement in. That's going to be good for you. Because specifically, if you've been seated for an extended period of time. So here's some hotel and airport strategies. I do have a guide that I can always share over. I shared it over a couple of months ago on for travel. So if you want that, just hit me up. So hotels, think about if they have access to this again, or you may bring it with you, right? Um, or they have breakfast or whatever. Go after the eggs, yogurt, fruit. Now I do know a lot of times the yogurt that they have, a lot of them don't have Greek yogurt. Some of them may. If they do, it's a win-win. If they don't, that yogurt's probably going to be higher than your typically normal sugar intake. So just be careful there. Just navigate that as best as possible. Airports, if you do a sit-down meal, think about protein first. Some of the airports, the quality of food's not going to be awesome. If you can do a lean protein and or a veggie, that's a win-win. That's a high five. You can do, chicken and a salad. And, a lot of these airports do have stuff like that. So just build it around protein and do the best you can with the quality. So, and then avoid grazing and liquid calories. Again, that's where we get in trouble. We can consume a lot of liquid calories fairly quickly. So I would try to avoid those as much as possible. And or you got to equate those in with your macros, understanding that, hey, if I'm going to consume something of liquid, where am I at with my totals? What does it look like? And kind of plan it out. So here's some strategies that may be conducive for you for events that you go to. So holiday events, eat protein before events, survey food options if you can. So, and or if you walk in, just kind of scan and understand what's available, what's going to serve you the best. And then you can obviously make or choose favorites intentionally. But again, if you're hitting these other concepts and you have the protein and you've done well with the day, there's no reason to go ahead and enjoy yourself as well. So again, once you're out of that cycle, you want to get back into your routine as much as possible. That's so key because again, creatures of habit, we want to continue with those habits we're building. That's who we're becoming. And again, if you have the opportunity, movement is going to be very key with supporting nutrition. Stabilizes your blood sugar, pulls down your blood sugar if you can get out and walk after your meal or go do something active if you can, right? So walking improves appetite control. Short workouts during this time of the year. If you can't make a full gym, we have all types of workouts where you can, 10 to 15-minute workout and it's going to get you what you need. Okay. And look at consistency over intensity. You're still checking a box. It's not perfect, but if it's close enough, we're good enough, and if it stays in our routine, it's going to be a win-win. You just heard me talk about hydration. Hydration is a hidden lever. So hydration increases, or dehydration increases and can increase your hunger response. So increase fluid when flying or consuming any type of uh, alcohol, and then water before food or alcohol. So those are all just conceptual components of hydration. You know, if you start feeling your energy fall off, what you can do is hydrate. That's going to be one of those components that I've used myself, and I've coached it with a multitude of clients because specifically in the middle of the day, sometimes what happens is we get into our day and we're not tracking or understanding how much water or lack thereof water we're consuming, so we become dehydrated, and then we start feeling lethargic and or tired. What I'd recommend before going and grabbing food is make sure you get X amount of water consumed. Because if you do that, what is going to happen is it's going to punch your energy levels back up, and it may tamp down that hunger response as well. So use that as a tool. Try it out. See how it works for you. Again, returning home. Okay, so we're coming out of the holidays. Maybe we were away from home, and or if we had people over, how can we get back into that routine that's serving us and our goals? So you want to make sure, take a kind of an inventory of what you have available. So your groceries, where's the protein, where's carb, all those components. Now you also may want to, if you've hosted and you've had a lot of leftovers that are not going to be good for you to have around, think about being nice and sending it with somebody, and or if you have for example, we have an elderly neighbor, and we kindly take a lot of sugar cookies and things of that nature, pies, over to her post holidays. So think about that too. If you struggle with having them around, you can go ahead and remove them. I know a lot of people dislike getting rid of things as far as like throwing it away, but if you have to do that, I would rather hit my goal than suffer in the temptation, right? So again, once you get home, is groceries, take inventory. Is your meals planned back out? What's your schedule look like for workouts? Again, you want to get back in your routine as quick as possible, because routine is going to be ideal, because again, we're creatures of habit, and get back into all the checklists that we have you go through ASAP. That way you're reinforcing those things like, hey, even though I had a disruption, even though I was out of my environment, I'm right back into my routine in some format or close enough. So that's going to be so important for you guys to manage that. Again, what does success look like to you? Minimal fat gain, muscle preserve, no guilt cycles. Again, we would prefer you look at it from a different lens, where if you do have, or if you have a day where you overconsume, or if you do overconsume, it's feedback. You want to really minimize the guilt component. Just it's feedback. Okay, why did I do that? Or is it, hey, I knew I was going to have a day where I was going to probably overconsume. No sweat. I'm back on it. I'm back into my cycle. I'm good. Okay. So you really want to identify if you're having those guilt components pop up. Again, fast to return to your routine is so crucial. And then, really, the biggest takeaways for you guys, there's a balance. Enjoy life without losing total control. You do have 100% control. You get to choose A, B, or C. It's your choice. We're trying to instill in you and educate you guys. You have the tools to make the right decision. We're going to give you the educational tools, right? And then it's the desire of that new identity of what you do now to maintain or hit those goals. And nutrition is a skill, right? So there's always going to be ebbs and flows with nutrition. We can always go down rabbit holes and go deeper, but the foundational components and foundational structure is really a skill of making those decisions consistently. Protein, carb, fat. From there, yes, it can branch out in quality and what's added, what's not. Yes, we can go, it can get very, very sophisticated. I would say more confusing, because that's what the marketplace does to you. It doesn't have to be. And a lot of times we overcomplicate, or the marketplace overcomplicates it, because, a confused consumer may be an easier consumer for consumption of their product. And again, skill, just like anything you practice and educate yourself, your skill of understanding nutrition, understanding macros, understanding prep, all that will improve with practice. So one of the things we want you to do within the program is making sure that we're getting data into the software. If we don't have data points, we don't, there's no way to coach, right? And there's no feedback. Even for yourself, the biggest thing with tracking, it's 100% feedback and identifying the breakdown of nutrients you're consuming, fats, proteins, carbs, and then the ratio of calories consumed in comparison to what your metabolic process is and what you're burning on a day-to-day basis. When you really look at it from that lens, it's like, oh, that's pretty, it can be really simplified, which it can. But, obviously there's outliers of emotion, stress, things of that nature, life that always can push and pull at us and throw us off the task we intended. So so get those data points in there. That's very important. That way we can give you specific feedback, coach you better, and look at, hey, am I hitting the marker point or am I not? Where do I need to make adjustments? The biggest and the most, I should say, the easiest way to continue to build that skill set is data entry. Making sure you get your data points in, it's going to give you feedback. Then we make adjustments. Then your skill gets better. So hopefully this helps. Again, like I always say, nutrition can be boring and it can be exciting, mysterious as well. But navigating the holidays is always an opportunity, and we want to give you guys the tools to navigate it with ease. Because it doesn't, a lot of times what I see is we create more stress than we need to have. Because a lot of times the stress is created from our own thoughts. I know that there is obligations, and there can be stresses that, you know, um, that are harder to control from a thought process. But many times, if you really step back and view the situation from almost outer body and look at it from a different lens and say, okay, hey, let's enjoy this time, with family, friends, the time of season, right? And let's not over stress about the obligations we have. So sometimes, we take it to the next level and stress. We don't have to. It's just more of perspective. So hopefully this educational component helps. What I am going to do now is I will kick it out of the share mode. I'll open it up for any questions that you guys have for me, and then we'll use it. We always use this time as an open format if there's specific things that I can address for you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kick out the share and kind of open up the format. All right. So does anybody have any specific questions for me? Again, I always use this time to answer anything, or if there was specific questions that you have, based upon the presentation. If not, no worries. You can either jump on and or you can always type in the chat box. No, no. Awesome. Well, I always record these guys, so I'll dump this back down into the software for you guys to consume later. And again, if you guys can't be available on these calls, we always record them for you to consume at your own convenience. And then I mentioned last week what I'm going to do here at the end of this year. I did this a couple months ago for you guys. Is I'm going to send out another survey, so that way you guys, I can get some feedback on topics that may be a little bit more in alignment with what you guys are needing. So I will do that. You'll get it here probably next week, and that way we can dive into some topics because I probably covered some of them, but revisiting certain topics never hurts. So, but with that said, excuse me, I'm gonna drink water real quick. Got to stay hydrated. especially when you're talking a lot, right? When you're coaching or doing those things. Um, well, go out and enjoy, obviously, the holiday with your family, friends, and whatever that looks like for you guys. Navigate as best as possible, and we look forward to coaching you through the process. If you have questions, use us, use the app, use the AI. That's what it's there for. It's a great tool. You may have to manipulate a little bit, but the better questions we ask it, the better responses we can get. So, if you guys need anything, we're here. Let us know. Um, have a Merry Christmas, and I'll talk with you guys soon.